The retained EU law bill fiasco illustrates the pointlessness of Brexit, or more particularly the resistance of some hardline Brexiters to the failure of the retained EU law bill illustrates the pointlessness of Brexit. My name's Mike Cashman. I'm the author with the wickedly witty Augusta Lees of It's My Party and I'll Lie If I Want To, the book with links to more than 120 satirical videos. But this video is a serious one about the retained EU law bill. Now, it was always a Brexit-like gesture rather than a realistic beneficial scheme. These laws have been built up over many years onto the UK statute book, but with an EU basis to them, mostly with the UK at the heart of those laws. There's a principle in business, which is that you don't make change unless it's justified, and the retained EU law bill ran totally contrary to that. Now, of course, many people in government have very little experience in business, and the retained EU law bill was justified with a kind of circular Brexit-like logic. Why should we do Brexit? Well, we can get rid of EU regulation and red tape. Jacob Rees-Mogg said it will bring prices down. Well, okay, what regulations? All of it. Well, will that actually help? Well, yes, because that's why we did Brexit. There would have been no point in doing Brexit if we didn't get rid of the EU regulations. As I say, very few people in government have very much experience of business. After the Brexit referendum, some of us who supported remaining in the EU thought, well, that is a great shame, that result, but at least it will put the Brexit fantasists it will give them the levers of power and get to a point where the fantasies meet reality, and that may force a rethink. Well, it has done in bits, but over some time. As an example of why getting rid of red tape isn't automatically a good idea, there was red tape that had standards for building regulations, and if we hadn't got rid of some red tape around building regulations for cladding on high-rise buildings, we wouldn't have had the Grenfell fire. Now, that's not retained EU law, but it's just an example that red tape isn't necessarily a bad thing. Regulation is not automatically a bad thing. Did the Brexit fantasists know that the retained EU law bill would end in a debacle such as this? If they didn't, they were idiots, because it's obvious. If they did, they were scoundrels. But there's a cycle here whereby the fantasists can still retain a grievance. You ask for the impossible, you find that it's not achieved, you then blame the realists, in this case the civil servants, who are attempting to achieve what it is that you ask them to do. And so, despite having the levers of power, you retain a grievance. This is what I said about it last year when Rishi Sunak proposed putting all the EU regulations into the shredder. Now, I didn't use this video, but you can see from the background that it dates from last August. It doesn't make any sense at all to take them en masse and destroy them or remove them from UK law. By all means, if you're committed to Brexit, make the case in particular instances for explaining why you believe there is reason that in the UK we can benefit from dispensing with a particular EU regulation. That's fair enough. You've got the Brexit that you voted for. So now have a go at explaining how you can find some benefit from it, because the rest of us are scratching our heads and trying to see how. So I was saying, make the case for the EU regulations, the retained EU laws that are on the UK statute book, that you want to get rid of. In an interview, Jacob Rees-Mogg said, well, surely we could at least get rid of the laws that aren't being used anymore. The interviewer said, well, isn't that an empty gesture of no particular benefit? Jacob Rees-Mogg said, well, it would tidy up the statute book. Fair enough. In that particular case, you have made the case for getting rid of those laws. It's not necessarily going to be enormously beneficial, but at least you've looked at the particular laws and said, that's what we want to do, and this is why for those particular laws. If you ask for something that is unfounded, then you are eventually going to have to face reality and potentially reverse it. Whether that thing that you've asked for is having Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, or the retained EU law bill, or Brexit itself. Sooner or later, you have to face reality. That's my view, anyway. Do feel free to add yours in the comments. I'm Mike Cashman. The channel is Britannia Waves the Rules. Please subscribe. And there's no financial contribution required to watch any of these videos, but I do encourage you to put your hand in your pocket and buy the books because you would enjoy them or give them as gifts to your friends. Thank you.